I just want you all to know that this has been marinating in my brain for days. I feel like a normal person would just write a fanfic, but this is basically a fanfic. Not as slay, probably not gonna have you kicking your feet and giggling like a fanfic would, but it's a fanfic without all the fancy schmancy words, I think. Do I feel better getting this out of my system and my agenda out in the world? I don't know. I don't know. But regardless, here's this. I'll link the playlist in the description. And hopefully I'll also link the translations for the songs that aren't in English, because that's important. Also, some of them, I'm using them very loosely. My delusional little brain just kind of reclaimed these songs and they mean something to me. And also, I'm not going as insanely specific as I would because I have to edit this and I don't want to edit a really, really long video. So I just want you to know that this is more like an epic in my mind, and you're getting the spark notes. Also, if anyone actually wants to write this fic, feel free to do so. Link it in the description. What the heck? I mean, link it in the comments. And if the comments mark you as spam, I have my social media. I will read it. If I hate it, I won't tell you. If I love it, I also won't tell you, because then if I don't respond, you'd know that I hate it. And that's not slay. I'm very particular about my fics. So yeah, if you want to use this inspiration, please do. I would actually love to see other people's interpretations. Yes. Also, make sure, I hope you read all the words on the screen right now. Do that too. And then if you want to listen to this in the future, I'll leave timestamps in the description as well. So, okay, on with my delusions. Yeehaw. This all starts with Trey Clover. He has the hots for his best friend, Cater Diamond. Knowing Cater isn't one to open up, Trey just accepts his unrequited love. For a while, at least. Eventually, Trey can't help but confess his feelings, and Cater, for whatever reason, actually agrees. So they start dating, but nothing seems to really change. Actually, things may have gotten worse. Cater clearly isn't taking the relationship as seriously as Trey. They constantly fight, and Cater threatens to leave at the drop of a hat. Trey is distressed by this development and ends up confiding in an unexpected person. Vil. The two end up spending a lot of time together, but what Trey doesn't know is that Vil has had a crush on him for a while. In fact, with all the time they've been spending together, the chemistry there is apparent, to the point that Vil begins to wonder if maybe Trey feels the same way. So Vil makes his feelings known. Trey is surprised by this revelation, and sensing his hesitancy, Vil tells Trey he doesn't need an answer right away. But on the inside, Vil's patience will only last so long. Trey spends a lot of time thinking about Vil's confession. Being around him was comfortable, maybe too comfortable. He was still dating Cater after all, and with this new information, he felt as if he was doing something wrong. So he confronts Cater about their rocky relationship, about how Cater clearly isn't happy and if they should even really be together. Cater is unfazed by their conversation and agrees with Trey. They should break up. But this isn't what Trey had in mind at all. He wanted this to be a segue into fixing things, not ending them. But it was too late. If Cater wasn't checked out before, he definitely was now. To say things ended on bad terms would be an understatement. Trey couldn't have been more relieved that he dated Cater in secret. Broken-hearted and misguided, Trey accepts Vil's feelings, hoping it would fill the Cater-sized void in his heart. And it did. Trey's relationships with Cater and Vil were night and day. While nearly every moment felt like a struggle with Cater, Vil accepted Trey's affections and even gave affection back. Trey could feel that for whatever reason, Vil really loved him. They were happy. They kept in touch during their internships, constantly calling and texting, even visiting when they could. Once they graduated, they didn't move in together because of Vil's work constantly having him on the move, but he did visit Trey's home whenever he could. But that bliss only lasted for so long. Trey found his heart drifting, longing for what he thought was an old forgotten romance, but he was just in denial. The little time he spent with Vil, he began to wish he were someone else. The change was gradual to Trey, but for Vil, it felt like each time he came to visit these days, a new barrier had formed. Vil became uneasy. Maybe their time apart was straining their relationship. Vil wasn't stupid, and he could tell that some days Trey wasn't really looking at him. He became desperate. Vil subconsciously became more clingy, trying to see if he could fix what was going on with Trey all of a sudden. The uncertainty drove Vil nearly mad, so he suggested that they go on a vacation. He had to go on location for a supporting role in a movie, but he'd have enough downtime for them to spend together. Trey agreed, hoping the change in scenery would help, but once they got to their destination, things only got worse. Because the filming location was in the shdhdnh. Even if Cater's family moved a lot, he always referred to the shdhdnh as his home, so Trey just ended up thinking about him more. His emotions reached their breaking point, and he couldn't handle hurting Vil any more than he already had. He wanted to call it quits. He tried to be as gentle as possible, but Vil didn't take it well at all. At first, he just acted like he didn't hear what Trey said at all. But when Trey doubled down, Vil couldn't pretend anymore. In reality, Vil could feel this coming, but what bothered him most is he had no idea where things went wrong. Did Trey not like how much time they spent apart? Did Trey not approve of the jobs Vil was taking on? Did he not like that they couldn't act like a normal couple in public because of their want of privacy? Vil tried to get a straight answer out of Trey, but he wouldn't budge. They were finished. Trey booked a flight back home, but there was a few days before he had to go back, so he spent his time wandering around aimlessly. But one day, he happened to pass a certain bank at a certain time, and he crossed paths with a familiar face. Cater. The two stopped in their tracks. What were the odds? Cater couldn't hold back tears as he saw Trey after all these years. It turns out Cater regretted how he treated Trey during the relationship. He only agreed to dating in the first place because he thought they were just messing around, but Trey was so sincere, it scared Cater. He was scared of intimacy and avoided Trey's advances. He kept Trey at arm's length to avoid getting hurt once things inevitably ended. But Cater didn't realize he was lying to himself about not caring until it was too late. He spent years with this regret. Trey was understanding and confessed that, despite everything, he missed Cater too. Meanwhile, it was Vil's turn to be heartbroken. He spent his vacation thinking about how great things used to be and how it could all just go so wrong. Vil can't seem to move on, so he takes on even more work to distract himself. During one of his activities, he ends up crossing paths with none other than Leona Kingscholar. They end up catching up, and Vil, probably against his better judgment, brings up his failed love life. Leona, in response, confesses that he had a thing for Vil at one point. Vil doesn't take him seriously at first, but then Leona asks if Vil really felt nothing between them back at NRC. Vil would be lying if he said he sensed nothing, but he always thought it was more playful flirting. Vil can't help but get flustered and almost leaves, but Leona asks for Vil's contact info. If he's going to be in the area, they should get drinks sometime. And for some reason, Vil agrees and they exchange their current numbers. Though Leona did use past tense for describing his feelings for Vil couldn't help but feel like maybe they weren't. Then Vil came back to his senses. He wasn't that desperate. Why was he even entertaining the idea? Regardless, he did go out for drinks with Leona. And then they went out again, and again, and it became a common occurrence. Their current relationship wasn't as hostile as back at NRC. They still bickered, but the two of them had matured a lot and became invested in each other's lives. Maybe too invested. Vil appreciated that he wasn't thinking about Trey anymore, but now he spent most days thinking about Leona. Vil wasn't sure when he started catching feelings himself, but he did his best to ignore them. But he couldn't ignore them for long since Leona dropped the question himself during one of their outings. Vil rejected him over and over, but they kept meeting. And to Vil's annoyance, Leona was quite confident that Vil would fall for him eventually. Well, more accurately, admit that he already did. Eventually, Vil began to falter in Leona's favor. Though Vil was still uncertain about starting a new romance, they definitely entered a situationship. Leona didn't need a label, and Vil wouldn't admit to one, so they were fine as they were. That is, until the Fire Nation attacked. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. Their class reunion. Vil decided to go, but Leona opted not to. No surprise there. But what Vil didn't anticipate, but he probably should have, was Trey being there. It had been so long since Vil had really thought at him at this point, but so many feelings came rushing back all at once. Maybe it was Vil's pride that drove him, but they ended up talking, and Vil realized he still wasn't over Trey, not by a long shot. Trey ended up mentioning Cater and was finally honest that he was the main reason he broke things off with Vil. But at the same time, some days, Trey found himself really missing Vil. Cater didn't accompany Trey to the reunion either. Both Trey and Vil were unsupervised. Mayhaps the two shared an ill-advised smooch? Okay, this song's a bit of a stretch here. I just wanted to be dramatic. This is my failed Leoville anthem, so it's staying. I'll leave what this means for your personal interpretation, but it has meanings for me that I won't elaborate on because I can't get into it. Yeah, sorry to ruin the flow of this, but I think this song is pretty self-explanatory. I'm a menace. I'm gonna go lay down.